Thank you for the opportunity to be here. And I'm actually wanting to rewind time even before 8 Degrees. Like those who are steady consumers of 8 Degrees as beers, you probably don't even remember the time before 8 Degrees. There was a time, and my business partner Cam, he was fortunate enough to meet two very wise people in his travels. And Cam is not a very wise person, so this is quite unusual. And the two wise people, they gave him this separately very profound insight. One was incredibly profound relationship advice, and the other one was the best business advice that I've ever come across, and was sort of the first business rule that we introduced in 8 Degrees Brewing. So for those that are still single in the room, I'll start on the relationship advice, because this is gold. This really is gold. And Cam was on a train in Morocco in around 2008 on the way to Casablanca. He was meeting up with myself and now my wife Caroline. It was just before we went on an agonizing camel trek into the desert. I mean, anybody that's been on a camel will know what I'm talking about, especially men. And he was sitting next to an elderly Moroccan man, and the elderly Moroccan man, he couldn't understand why Cam was single. I mean, like he was in his early to mid 30s. He was obviously getting on in Moroccan terms, and Cam was sort of trying to explain the difficulty of sort of finding a suitable life partner and such. And the Moroccan man, he said to Cam, he said, it's very simple. It's very simple. What you need is to find a woman with a good heart and a good head. That is all it is. Just very simple. And I thought that was gold. That really is fantastic relationship advice for anybody that's single. I mean, a decent amount of compassion and a reasonably rational mind is all that's needed. So there you are. I impart that advice onto you. The second wise man that Cam met was it was actually his last boss in Australia. It was just before he came over to Ireland, and we were about to set up 8 Degrees Brewing in Mitchelstown, and he went to his boss in Australia and on his last day of work, and they sat down in the office, and he asked his boss, do you have any advice for me, sort of any insight? Because this boss, he was incredibly successful. He ran a massive dairy company in Australia, turning over hundreds of millions of euros. He's an incredibly successful man. And just to digress, because I know there's an Australian in the office, in Australia, you're lucky to get one profound thing out of somebody there. I mean, like it's not like talking to an American sort of business guru where you might get sort of seven sort of great insights into sort of setting up a business or something. To get one decent sort of bit of advice was really pushing it. And so he said, Cam, I have one piece of advice for you, funny enough. And he said, it is also quite simple. Just don't do business with assholes. And the profound insight within that is sort of initially sort of lost because it's a bit crass, it's a bit Australian. I mean, that's the way Australians roll. And a New Zealander wouldn't have sort of come up with that. But it even sort of takes a bit to figure out in business terms who an arsehole actually is. Because, I mean, like obviously in personal sort of ways that your interpretation and definition of that could be different. And it took us a little bit of thinking. Like Cam, when he came to Ireland, he said, I've got this great insight for our business. I mean, like this should be our number one rule. And so it became our number one business rule. And so whenever we were in a meeting, ever since, I hope nobody's been in a meeting with me when this has happened, and the other person has said, I'm thinking of invoking business rule number one here. We know exactly what the other person's meaning. I mean, we don't even need to sort of go any further than that. I said, no, I can see why you're calling that. It's and but it took a bit to sort of figure out how this was applicable, and I mean, initially you sort of, I mean, because business is hard, and like there's a lot of people you meet and you don't like them either. I mean, like we get people from regulatory bodies come around the whole time, and they're frustrating. I mean, they take a lot of the fun that we want to have sort of out of it, but they're not necessarily assholes. Like, they're doing a proper job, I mean, for the greater good, and I mean, that it needs to happen. So no, they don't fall under that definition, although sometimes it feels like they do. And sometimes, like, when you're onto somebody and you're bugging the hell out of them and they're not coming back to you and as quick as you would like, I mean, that person's probably just a bit busy, and they're sort of juggling many things at the moment. They're not necessarily assholes. But what we've come over the time to sort of interpret it to be is somebody that's highly unreasonable, that you can't sort of strike a sort of a point of reason with, somebody that's dominated by massive personal greed, and somebody that can't be trusted to honour their word. Like, these are the people that we actively try to avoid, and because what we've found is that such a person will always try to twist an amicable business arrangement around, and they will always begrudge you for making a profit in a business transaction. They will just strip that business arrangement out until there's nothing left. And so what we do more now is we try to, because it's a bit crass, we focus more on the positive aspect to it, and we say we try to go about our business in a friendly, honest, and decent manner, and we try to deal with friendly and honest people, and we apply that throughout. And it's like, even when we hire people within the brewery, we're now up to 10 people over the last 4 years. We always go for character. We always look for a good work ethic and intelligence, and very, very rarely will we hire somebody based on qualifications. It like, I went through university, and there's probably many people here that did, and there are some incredibly dopey people that come through university. I mean, there's and the reality is, even an incredibly dopey person can cram like hell before an exam. But when you sit down with somebody and when you get to know them, and if you can sort of get a sense of that decent work ethic and that decency of character and a sort of a natural intelligence there, then that person can really turn their hand to anything and can be quickly trained in any aspect. We also apply that in our business dealings. We now export, it's over 10%, probably closer to 15% of what we produce. And what we've found is the most successful export arrangements that we've come up with have been with enthusiastic small startup distribution companies within these companies, within these countries. A great example is in northern Italy. We supply a family business there, and it's a classical Italian sort of family business. Like, they came over to us. The uncles came over, the father, the cousins, the sons. They came over, and they did a loop around Ireland. They were sort of happy with what they saw in the brewery, and then we went over there. We met the grandmothers, we met the cousins as well, the more cousins, and everybody else. But through that relationship, we started supplying them. But through that relationship, they're incredibly passionate about selling our beers in northern Italy, and that is from that personal connection. And in Singapore, we just started supplying Singapore towards the end of last year. We supply a guy called Sid. Ours were the first beers that he had ever sold. He doesn't sell any other beers just yet, and it's going great. I mean, Sid, by virtue of sort of starting up his distribution company, he's so excited and so passionate about selling our beers, and it works out extremely well. Northern Ireland, we supply Felicia up there again. She's a startup distributor. She started up about 12 months ago, and we were one of the first beers that she started supplying. She had no track record as a company, and and now she's probably our second largest export country. So what we've have found is on the flip side that any time that we've supplied incredibly large national distributors in any country, it's fallen flat, and that's because our products have been one of hundreds, if not thousands, of products sitting on their catalogue, and they have zero interest in selling our products and not proactive at all in doing them. So again, that sort of personal relationship that you can strike and trying to deal with decent people really in commercial sort of business terms really has paid off strongly for us. So and that's, I guess, those values, they translate into meaningful, sustained and profitable business. It's like we consciously, even on the face of things, if a commercial transaction looks beneficial for us, if we get a negative read of the person that we're about to deal with, we pull out. And I mean, that to some people seems like commercial suicide, but it as I say, our experience has been that if we don't do that, then that company or that person will try to fleece us, and that is if you hold true to that way of going about business, then we've built a strong and profitable business on the back of that mindset. As an owner, you can make whatever rules you want within your business. You can have these crazy things where you just decide, I'm not going to deal with assholes, and you can, because you own the company. It's great, and we that sort of mindset, we looked for it to pervade the whole organisation as well. Like we tell our staff they're not to stand for bullying from people. If a customer is on the phone and is bullying, they're not to take it. And we don't expect to be bullied as the owners, and we don't expect to deal with bad people. We also don't expect our staff to have to deal with bad people either. Within Ireland truly is a great place to do business, and as an outsider coming into Ireland, I mean, it's got a lot of the, I guess, the superficial parts that are great to do business. Like on the regulatory side, it's fine. Like there's a good level of education in the country. It is a good country to do business. But the thing I like the most is people are receptive to personal relationships and interactions. That people have inherent value system and honor system that even within your business dealings, you can link into that. And not every country has that, to be honest. Like when I talk to people back in New Zealand, they're shocked at how pleasant it is to go about business in Ireland, because that, I guess, that way of going about things is still true here, and that's certainly been our experience over the last 4 years. I've still got 3 bars here. I'm going to talk about brewing a little bit. Like we obviously within the craft beer space, the beer within Ireland is dominated by multinationals, and the multinational companies, they account for 98.5% of market share in Ireland. And the small independent craft beer producers, of which we're one, is just 1.5% of beer consumed, and we're really sort of operating within a market space where the big guys have hundreds of millions of euros to spend on advertising and marketing and such, and it really doesn't worry us at all. And I guess the reason why we succeed within this sort of niche area is we're able to rely on the quality of our products, that the people know that we produce good, innovative, flavoursome beers, but also because we have a value system within the brewery, they see sort of a decency and a consistency in our brand and the way that we go about things, and that brand that's a way to build a brand where your brand is true to yourselves and people can see that sincerity within your brand. They'll buy into it. We have no advertising budget, we have no real marketing budget, and so we rely on these value systems of good quality products and oh, it's buzzing, and our value systems to pull us through. So, in summary, so what's my relationship advice? Good heart, good head. And what's the business advice? Don't deal with assholes. So that's. But on the positive side, what I would do is encourage you to actively seek out to deal with good people, because that is actually a very commercial way of going about things. It's not being soft. It actually makes really, really good commercial sense. So thank you for your time.